Ambassador Veltar of the Catherian Empire stared at the holographic display showing the empty chair that had haunted the Galactic Council chambers for over 2 centuries. The mahogany seat, carved in the primitive style of the third planet from the Sol system, remained untouched since the humans first received their invitation to join galactic civilization. "Still no response from Earth?" asked Chancellor Zixmoth, her crystalline features reflecting the blue glow of the chamber's energy fields. "Nothing," Veltar replied, his scaled fingers drumming against the Obsidian Council table. 237 summit invitations, 237 rejections, or rather, complete silence. The other council members shifted uncomfortably in their respective atmospheric bubbles. The Galactic Council represented 43 species across 17 star systems, each bringing their unique technologies, cultures, and perspectives to the grand alliance that had maintained peace for over a millennium. Every species except one. Humans had been discovered by a routine Catherian exploration vessel in the year 2387, according to Earth's calendar. The primitive world had just begun launching basic fusion-powered craft beyond their moon. The discovery protocol was simple: observe, evaluate, and if the species showed potential, extend an invitation to join the greater galactic community. The evaluation of humanity had been fascinating. Despite their technological limitations, humans displayed remarkable creativity, resilience, and an unusual capacity for both cooperation and conflict. Their planet teemed with life. Their civilizations showed complex social structures, and their art and literature revealed deep philosophical thinking. The first invitation was sent with great ceremony. The Council expected the humans to be overwhelmed with gratitude, as every other species had been upon learning they were not alone in the universe. Instead, they received a simple message broadcast on primitive radio frequencies. "Thank you for your invitation. We respectfully decline at this time." The Council assumed it was a translation error. The second invitation included universal translators, detailed star maps, and examples of the technological marvels that awaited humanity if they joined the galactic community. The response came faster this time. "We appreciate your continued interest. Our answer remains no." By the 10th invitation, the Council was baffled. By the 50th, they were insulted. By the 100th, they were concerned. What were the humans doing that was so important they would reject the greatest opportunity in their planet's history? "Perhaps we should send another exploration team," suggested Elder Mordak of the Helix Confederation. His tentacles writhed with agitation as he spoke. "It has been nearly a century since our last direct observation." Chancellor Zixmoth nodded slowly. "The Catherian Empire has monitored their electromagnetic emissions, but from a respectful distance. Their radio and digital communications suggest continued technological advancement, but nothing that should explain their continued isolation." "Respectful distance," scoffed Admiral Thane of the Rigel Defense Force. His cybernetic implants whirred as he accessed the tactical database. "We've been watching a potentially hostile species develop unchecked for over 2 centuries. For all we know, they're building weapons to use against us." "Hostile?" Veltar's voice carried a note of amusement. "Admiral, their most advanced spacecraft barely qualify as interplanetary vessels. They've sent a few robotic probes to neighboring worlds, established some mining operations on asteroids, but nothing that could threaten even our oldest vessels." Admiral Thane's artificial eye focused on the empty chair. "Sometimes the greatest threats come from the most unexpected sources." The chamber fell silent. Each member of the Council reflected on their own species' journey to the stars. The Catherians had developed faster-than-light travel through manipulation of space-time. The Helix Confederation had achieved interstellar flight by harnessing the energy of quantum fluctuations. The Rigel Defense Force had built their empire on advanced artificial intelligence and cybernetic enhancement. Every species had followed predictable patterns of development. They had exhausted their homeworld's resources, looked to the stars for expansion, and eventually encountered other civilizations. The cycle was as natural as planetary formation itself, except for humanity. "What if," Elder Mordak said slowly, "they're developing something we don't understand?" The question hung in the chamber like a toxic gas. The Council prided itself on being the pinnacle of galactic civilization. Their combined knowledge spanned millions of years of scientific advancement. The idea that a primitive species might possess something beyond their comprehension was almost insulting. "Impossible," declared Professor Chintel of the Academic Collective. Her multiple brains processed data at speeds that made quantum computers seem sluggish. "We have observed their scientific publications, their technological patents, their cultural outputs. They are progressing along standard developmental lines, merely at a slower pace than most species." "Then why," Chancellor Zixmoth asked quietly, "do they continue to refuse us?" The question had plagued the Council for generations. Some theorized that humans were xenophobic, terrified of alien contact. Others suggested they were waiting to achieve technological parity before joining galactic society. The most paranoid members whispered about hidden human agendas or secret technologies, but the truth was simpler and more disturbing. Nobody really knew what humanity was thinking. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of Lunar Station Alpha, watching Earth turn slowly beneath them. The blue marble that had given birth to humanity seemed peaceful from this distance, but Sarah knew better. Down there, in laboratories and factories, shipyards and research stations, humanity was preparing for something the galaxy had never seen before. "The latest Council transmission came in this morning," reported Captain Martinez, her aide and liaison to Earth's military command. "Same as always. Invitation to the next summit. Promises of technological advancement, assurances of peaceful cooperation." Sarah didn't turn from the viewport. "And our response? Same as always, polite decline." For 2 centuries, Earth's leaders had maintained the same policy regarding alien contact: accept no technology, share no information, reveal nothing of humanity's true capabilities. It was a policy born of caution, refined by wisdom, and maintained by necessity. The first alien contact had triggered the greatest philosophical and strategic debate in human history. Should they eagerly join this galactic community? Should they approach with caution? Should they refuse entirely? The decision, when it finally came, surprised everyone. Humanity would decline the invitation not out of fear or arrogance, but out of prudence. They would use the time to prepare, to develop, to ensure that when they finally revealed themselves to the galaxy, they would do so from a position of strength. "How many ships are operational?" Sarah asked. Captain Martinez consulted his tablet. "As of this morning, 943 vessels in the primary fleet, 57 in the secondary reserve. Construction continues on schedule." Sarah smiled. The aliens thought humanity was developing slowly, progressing along standard lines. They had no idea that every rejected invitation had bought precious time for humanity's greatest undertaking. While the galaxy built councils and committees, humans had built something else entirely. They had built a war machine, not out of aggression, but out of necessity. The galaxy was not empty, and humanity would not enter it as supplicants begging for scraps of alien technology. They would enter as equals, or not at all. "Send the usual response to the Council," Sarah said finally. "Thank them for their invitation, express our continued interest in eventual contact, but politely decline." "And the real reason?" Sarah finally turned from the viewport, her eyes reflecting the cold light of distant stars. "Because we're not ready yet, but soon." In the depths of space, automated Constructio Admiral Elena Vasquez stood before the massive holographic display in the war room, deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain. The three-dimensional star map showed every known alien world, every trade route, every military installation that humanity's spy networks had discovered over the past 2 centuries. It was a masterpiece of intelligence gathering that would have impressed even the paranoid Rigel Defense Force if they had known it existed. "Final count, Admiral?" asked General Harrison, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. 1,012 vessels, Elena replied, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of what those numbers represented. "We exceeded our target by 12 ships. The Titan-class dreadnoughts are performing beyond specifications, and the stealth destroyers have passed every test we could devise." General Harrison nodded slowly. For his entire career, he had prepared for this moment. As a young lieutenant, he had witnessed humanity's first contact with alien life. As a colonel, he had helped design the grand strategy that would guide human development for the next 2 centuries. Now, as Earth's highest-ranking military officer, he would oversee humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. "Are we sure this is the right approach?" asked Dr. Elizabeth Park, the civilian scientist who served as Earth's chief xenobiologist. "We've learned so much about these species through observation. Many of them seem genuinely peaceful. The Catherian Empire has never engaged in conquest. The academic collective shares knowledge freely. Perhaps we're being too cautious." Admiral Vasquez pulled up a tactical assessment of galactic military forces. "Dr. Park, in the past millennium, the Galactic Council has fought 17 major wars. They call them police actions or peacekeeping missions, but the body count tells a different story. 3 species have been completely exterminated. 7 more have been reduced to client states with no real independence." She highlighted specific star systems on the map. The Helix Confederation eliminated the Crystalline Collective because they refused to share their terraforming technology. The Rigel Defense Force wiped out the Void Dancers because their nomadic lifestyle was deemed incompatible with galactic stability. These aliens talk about peace and cooperation, but only as long as everyone follows their rules. Dr. Park frowned. "But surely if we explained our position, if we demonstrated our peaceful intentions, they would do exactly what they've done to every other species that didn't conform," General Harrison interrupted. "They would give us a choice, submit or be eliminated. The only reason they haven't forced the issue already is that they think we're too primitive to matter." The war room's main screen flickered, showing feeds from observation posts throughout the solar system. Hidden bases on Mars monitored alien communications. Cloaked stations in the asteroid belt tracked every ship that entered the system. Deep space arrays listened to radio chatter from a dozen different species, piecing together intelligence about galactic politics, military capabilities, and strategic weaknesses. For 2 centuries, humanity had played the role of primitive isolationists while secretly building the most sophisticated intelligence network the galaxy had ever seen. They knew about the Council's internal conflicts, their technological limitations, their military doctrines, even their individual personalities and psychological profiles. "Show her the Vegan incident," Admiral Vasquez said quietly. The display changed, showing a peaceful blue-green world orbiting a distant star. "Vega 7, Dr. Park read from the data overlay. "Population 8 billion. Highly advanced aquatic species with remarkable biotechnology. They were contacted by the Council 50 years ago," General Harrison explained. "Refused to join immediately, said they needed time to prepare their people for galactic contact. The Council gave them 10 years to come to their senses. When they still refused, the academic collective declared them a stagnant species unsuited for galactic society." The image changed, showing the same world after orbital bombardment. Vast oceans boiled away, leaving cracked desert plains scattered with the ruins of once great cities. "Total extinction in 72 hours, Admiral Vasquez said. Official council records list it as a natural disaster caused by solar flare activity. They even sent relief ships to investigate the tragedy. Dr. Park stared at the devastated world in horror. How many people know about this? On Earth? Maybe 100? In the galaxy? The council members who ordered it, and the military officers who carried it out. Everyone else believes the official story. General Harrison closed the file. This is what happens to species that don't cooperate, Dr. Park. This is why we've spent 2 centuries preparing. The Admiral called up another display showing the hidden shipyards that orbited beyond Pluto. Massive industrial complexes that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations for over a century. To alien observers, humanity appeared to be developing normally, extracting resources from their solar system to support their growing population. They had no idea that those mining platforms were actually the most advanced military construction facilities ever built. Every ship in our fleet incorporates technology that the Council has never seen, Admiral Vasquez explained. They've been building bigger and bigger vessels, competing to see who can create the most impressive displays of power. We took a different approach. She highlighted one of humanity's stealth destroyers, a sleek vessel barely 300 meters long. This ship could penetrate any defense system in the galaxy undetected. Its weapons could disable a Catherian battlecruiser before their sensors even registered an attack. They've spent 1,000 years perfecting brute force. We've spent 2 centuries perfecting precision. The tactical display showed comparative analyses between human and alien technologies. Where the aliens had focused on raw power and impressive scale, humans had concentrated on efficiency, stealth, and strategic advantage. Alien ships were massive and heavily armored, but slow and predictable. Human vessels were smaller and more maneuverable, but carried weapons that could exploit every weakness in alien defenses. What about their superior numbers? Dr. Park asked. The Council represents 43 species. Even if our ships are more advanced, they have thousands of vessels spread across 17 star systems. General Harrison smiled grimly. Numbers only matter if you can bring them to bear. Our intelligence networks have identified every major military installation in Council space. We know their patrol routes, their response times, their communication protocols. When we move, we won't be fighting their entire fleet. We'll be fighting scattered groups of ships that can't coordinate with each other. The strategic planning had been meticulous. Humanity's war planners had studied every conflict in galactic history, analyzed every tactical doctrine, identified every weakness in the Council's military structure. They had learned from the mistakes of species that had challenged galactic authority and failed. The key insight had come from studying the Rigel Defense Force's own rise to power. 3 centuries ago, they had been a minor species on the galactic periphery. Through careful planning and ruthless execution, they had eliminated their rivals one by one, always striking at the moment of maximum advantage. By the time the Council realized the threat, the Rigel forces controlled half the galaxy's military infrastructure. Humanity would use the same approach, but with 2 crucial differences. First, they would strike simultaneously across multiple systems, preventing any coordinated response. Second, they would not seek to conquer and occupy, but to demonstrate overwhelming superiority and force a negotiated settlement. We're not planning genocide, Admiral Vasquez emphasized. We're planning a demonstration. Once the Council understands our capabilities, they'll have no choice but to treat us as equals. Dr. Park looked skeptical. And if they refuse? If they decide to unite against us? Then we remind them what happened to every species that underestimated human determination. General Harrison's voice carried the weight of 2 centuries of preparation. We've studied their psychology, Dr. Park. These species value strength above all else. They respect power, not good intentions. If we arrive as supplicants, they'll treat us as subjects. If we arrive as conquerors, they'll treat us as equals. The war room's communications array chimed softly, indicating an incoming message from deep space. Admiral Vasquez accepted the transmission, and the image of Captain Sarah Chen appeared on the main screen. "Admiral, we've received the latest council invitation. They're planning a special session next month to discuss the human question. Apparently, some members are getting impatient with our continued isolation." "Any indication of their intentions?" General Harrison asked. "Our sources suggest they're considering a more direct approach. Ambassador Veltar has proposed sending a diplomatic mission to Earth, whether we consent or not. The vote is scheduled for next week." Admiral Vasquez exchanged glances with General Harrison. They had always known this moment would come. The Council's patience had limits, and 2 centuries, Ambassador Veltar felt a strange unease as his diplomatic vessel approached the Sol system. The Catherian Empire's most advanced ship, the Eternal Harmony, had been chosen for this mission specifically because of its impressive appearance. 5 kilometers of gleaming metal and energy fields, designed to inspire awe in primitive species who had never seen the true power of galactic civilization. "Still no response from Earth," reported Navigation Officer Catherine. "We've been broadcasting diplomatic protocols for the past 6 hours. Either their communication systems are more primitive than we thought, or they're deliberately ignoring us." Veltar studied the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. Everything appeared exactly as their long-range observations had suggested. A few orbital stations around the inner planets, some asteroid mining operations, basic fusion-powered ships moving between worlds. Nothing that posed any threat to a vessel of the Eternal Harmony's capabilities. "Continue broadcasting," he ordered. "According to Council doctrine, we must give them every opportunity to respond peacefully before implementing more direct measures." The vote had been close, but the Council's patience had finally reached its limit. 238 invitations had been extended to humanity. 238 rejections had been received. Admiral Thane's warnings about potentially hostile intentions had finally swayed enough votes to authorize this mission. The official purpose was diplomatic: establish formal contact with Earth's government and explain the consequences of continued isolation. The unofficial purpose was to demonstrate the futility of resistance. Once humanity saw what galactic civilization could accomplish, they would have no choice but to submit. Ambassador, Communications Specialist Yelandra called out, her crystalline features reflecting confusion. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's strange." "Strange how?" Veltar moved to the communications station. "The signal is incredibly clear, using our own encryption protocols. It's as if they've been studying our technology for decades. The message is simple. Welcome to Sol system. Please maintain current heading. You are expected." Veltar frowned. Expected? How could primitive humans expect a diplomatic mission that had only been authorized 3 days ago, unless their intelligence capabilities were far more advanced than the Council had believed? "Sir," called Sensor Specialist Moore Andon from his station. "I'm detecting some anomalous readings in the outer system. There appear to be structures near Pluto that don't match our previous observations." The main display switched to long-range sensors, focusing on the distant ice dwarf that marked the edge of human space. What they saw defied explanation. Massive installations that had somehow escaped detection during centuries of observation. Industrial complexes that rivaled anything in Council space. "How is this possible?" Veltar whispered. "Our sensors showed nothing but ice and rock." "Stealth technology," Admiral Thane's voice came through a secure communication channel. "I'm viewing your sensor feeds from the Fleet Command Center. Those installations have been hidden for decades, possibly centuries. The humans have been lying to us." More anomalies appeared on the display. What had seemed like asteroid mining operations revealed themselves to be military installations. Simple cargo ships suddenly showed energy signatures that matched warship configurations. The entire solar system was transforming before their eyes, as if humanity had been waiting for this moment to drop their disguise. "Sir," Morandan's voice was tight with disbelief, "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. Ships are powering up everywhere. Big ships." The tactical display lit up like a constellation as hidden vessels revealed themselves. Sleek warships emerged from behind asteroids. Battle cruisers decloaked near gas giant moons. Carrier groups materialized from what had appeared to be empty space. "How many?" Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Over 1,000 vessels, sir. And they're all moving toward our position." The Eternal Harmony suddenly seemed very small and very alone. Veltar had commanded diplomatic missions to dozens of primitive worlds, but nothing had prepared him for this. Humanity was supposed to be barely capable of interplanetary flight. They weren't supposed to have a fleet that dwarfed most Council military forces. "Admiral Thane," Veltar called through the secure channel, "we need immediate backup. The humans have been preparing for this contact for a very long time." "Backup is already en route," came the reply. 3 battle fleets are jumping to your position. Hold your ground and try to maintain diplomatic contact. We need to understand what we're facing." A new communication arrived from Earth, this time with visual components. The face that appeared on screen was unmistakably human, but there was nothing primitive about the technology or the confidence in those eyes. "Ambassador Veltar of the Catherian Empire," the human said, reading from what was obviously a detailed file. "I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. We've been monitoring your approach with great interest." Veltar tried to maintain diplomatic composure despite the circumstances. "Admiral, I represent the Galactic Council on a peaceful diplomatic mission. We had expected to contact your planetary government through official channels." Admiral Vasquez smiled, and there was something unsettling about that expression. "Ambassador, we are the official channel. Earth's government has been aware of your civilization for over 2 centuries. We've been preparing for this meeting just as long." "Preparing how?" The question came out sharper than Veltar intended. "By studying you, learning your capabilities, your tactics, your weaknesses. You've been broadcasting your activities across half the galaxy for 1,000 years. Did you really think no one was listening?" The implications hit Veltar like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't been ignoring galactic civilization out of fear or primitivism. They had been watching, learning, preparing. Every rejected invitation had bought them more time to study their potential enemies. "We come in peace," Veltar began, falling back on standard diplomatic protocols. "No, you don't," Admiral Vasquez interrupted. "You come with ultimatums. Submit or be destroyed. We've seen what happens to species that refuse your generous offers of membership. The vegan collective sends their regards, by the way." Veltar's blood ran cold. The vegan incident was classified at the highest levels. No primitive species should have known about it, let alone possessed proof of what really happened. "You seem surprised, Ambassador. Did you think we wouldn't notice when an entire world goes silent overnight? We've been tracking your police actions for decades. We know about the Crystalline Collective, the Void Dancers, the Harmony Seekers. 23 species eliminated because they wouldn't conform to your vision of galactic order." The tactical display showed more human ships arriving by the minute, not the primitive craft the Council had expected, but sleek predators that moved through space with deadly grace. Each vessel was a masterpiece of military engineering, designed not for show, but for lethal efficiency. "What do you want?" Veltar asked, abandoning diplomatic niceties. "Respect," Admiral Vasquez replied simply. "For 2 centuries, you've treated us like primitive children who would be grateful for your enlightenment. You've sent invitation after invitation, never once considering that we might have good reasons for declining." She paused, and her expression hardened. "Today, that changes. Today, you learn that humanity is not a species to be conquered or absorbed. We are your equals. whether you like it or not. The space around the Eternal Harmony filled with human warships. They maintained perfect formation, weapons powered but not targeted, a demonstration of discipline that impressed even Veltar's experienced crew. These weren't pirates or raiders. They were the military force of a civilization that had spent centuries preparing for this moment. "Admiral Thane's reinforcements are arriving," reported sensor specialist Morandon. 3 Council battle fleets dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Massive dreadnoughts and battle cruisers, the pride of galactic military engineering. Against any normal opposition, they would have been overwhelming. Against humanity's hidden fleet, they found themselves outnumbered 3-1. "Impressive," Admiral Vasquez commented, apparently monitoring Council communications. "The Rigel Defense Force's 7th Fleet, the Catherian Empire's 2nd Battle Group, and the Academic Collective's Research Division. Your people certainly take us seriously." Admiral Thane's voice crackled through the communication channel. "This is Admiral Thane of the Galactic Council Defense Force. Human vessels, you are in violation of galactic law. Stand down immediately and prepare to be boarded." The response came not from Admiral Vasquez, but from another human voice, one that carried the unmistakable authority of supreme command. "Admiral Thane, this is General Harrison, Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. You are in violation of human space sovereignty. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal procedures, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war." Veltar watched the tactical display with growing horror. The human fleet was moving into attack formation with precision that would have impressed Council military academies. Each ship knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. This wasn't a hastily assembled defense force. This was a military machine that had been preparing for this exact scenario for decades. "You're bluffing," Admiral Thane transmitted. "No primitive species would dare attack the combined forces of the Galactic Council." "You're right," General Harrison replied calmly. "No primitive species would. Fortunately, we're not primitive. We're just patient." The first human ship fired a single shot, a precision beam that severed the communication array from Admiral Thane's flagship without damaging anything else. It was a demonstration of accuracy that should have been impossible at such range. "That was a warning shot," General Harrison announced. "The next one won't be." Admiral Thane's response was predictable. The Council fleets opened fire with everything they had, filling space with energy beams and missile volleys. For a moment, it seemed like the human fleet would be overwhelmed by sheer firepower. Then humanity showed the galaxy what 2 centuries of military evolution could accomplish. The human ships moved like living things, flowing through the Council's attack patterns with impossible grace. Their weapons fired with surgical precision, targeting specific systems rather than attempting to destroy entire vessels. Within minutes, half the Council fleet was disabled, their crews unharmed, but their ships powerless. "Impossible," Veltar breathed. "No species could have developed such advanced tactics so quickly." "We didn't develop them quickly," Admiral Vasquez explained, her voice coming through the chaos of battle. "We developed them carefully. Every engagement you've ever fought, we've studied. Every tactical doctrine you've ever used, we've analyzed. Every weakness you've ever shown, we've exploited." The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the mighty Council fleets hung dead in space, their crews alive but their ships crippled beyond repair. Not a single human vessel had been lost. "This is impossible," Admiral Thane transmitted, his voice hollow with shock. "Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy. Our tactics are proven across 1,000 years of conflict. How did we beat you so easily?" General Harrison's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Because you've been fighting the same wars for a millennium, Admiral. You've become predictable, comfortable. We've been watching you make the same mistakes over and over again, and we've been preparing to exploit every one of them. The tactical display showed human ships beginning recovery operations, pulling disabled council vessels to safety and providing medical aid to injured crews. They could have destroyed the entire fleet, but they had chosen mercy instead. It was a statement more powerful than any weapon. "What happens now?" Veltar asked quietly. Admiral Vasquez reappeared on the communication screen. "Now, Ambassador, you return to the Council with a message. Humanity is no longer asking for membership in your galactic community. We're demanding it. As equals, not as subjects." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "The next Council session will include a human representative. We'll be discussing new terms for galactic governance, new rules that respect the sovereignty of all species, not just the powerful ones." "And if the Council refuses?" Veltar had to ask. Admiral Vasquez's smile returned, but this time it was warm rather than threatening. "Ambassador, we've just demonstrated that we can defeat your entire military force without breaking a sweat. But more importantly, we've shown that we can do so without unnecessary casualties. We're not interested in conquest or domination. We want partnership, cooperation, mutual respect." The human fleet began to withdraw, leaving the disabled council ships under the protection of rescue vessels. As they departed, Admiral Vasquez delivered her final message. "Tell the Council that Earth's isolation is over. We're joining galactic civilization, but on our terms. The age of human submission was over before it began. The age of human partnership starts now." As the Eternal Harmony limped back toward Council space with its cargo of defeated vessels, Veltar reflected on the magnitude of what had just occurred. In a single day, humanity had shattered every assumption the galaxy had held about primitive species and military power. The Council would have no choice but to accept human demands. They had seen what happened to those who underestimated humanity's determination. More importantly, they had seen that humans were capable of restraint even in victory. For the first time in galactic history, a new species had joined the community not as supplicants or conquerors, but as equals who had earned their place through strength, wisdom, and mercy. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Ambassador Veltar realized, was probably a good thing. Of rejection had apparently exhausted their tolerance for human independence. "How long until our fleet is fully operational?" the Admiral asked. 72 hours, Captain Chen replied. "All vessels are fueled, armed, and ready for deployment. Crew training is complete, and our intelligence assets are in position throughout Council space." The moment of truth had arrived. For 200 years, humanity had hidden behind a facade of primitive isolation while secretly building the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. Soon, that secret would be revealed. "Initiate Operation Revelation," General Harrison ordered. "All ships are to take their assigned positions. Once the Council makes their move, we'll be ready to respond." As the transmission ended, Dr. Park looked at the tactical displays with new understanding. "You're really going to do this? You're going to challenge an entire galactic civilization?" Admiral Vasquez nodded. "Dr. Park, for 2 centuries, we've watched the galaxy from the shadows. We've seen how they treat species that don't conform to their vision of order. We've learned from the mistakes of those who tried to resist and failed." She gestured to the star map, where 1,000 red dots represented humanity's hidden fleet. "Tomorrow, the galaxy will learn that humanity is not a primitive species waiting to be enlightened. We are a civilization that has spent 2 centuries preparing for this exact moment. And we will not be ignored any longer." The war room fell silent as the magnitude of the coming conflict settled over them. Somewhere in the depths of space, alien diplomats were preparing their ultimatums, and military commanders were reviewing their invasion plans. They had no idea that humanity was already 3 steps ahead, waiting for them to make the first move. The age of human isolation was about to end. The age of human dominance was about to begin. Platforms worked tirelessly, building vessels that combined human ingenuity with 2 centuries of focused development, sleek warships that moved like predators through the void, carriers that could deploy swarms of fighters faster than alien sensors could track, dreadnoughts armed with weapons that could crack planets. The galaxy had spent a millennium building a civilization based on cooperation and shared knowledge. Humanity had spent 2 centuries building something else entirely, something the galaxy had never seen before. Because no species had ever had the foresight or the discipline to prepare so thoroughly for first contact, the aliens would learn soon enough. When humanity finally accepted an invitation to the Galactic Council, they would not arrive as desperate primitives seeking membership in a superior civilization. They would arrive as conquerors. But first, they needed 1,000 ships,